out. Oh, now it says it's streaming, so
Okay.
excellent. I dibbed out on checking, so normally I'm like, "Are we on? Are we on?" But yeah. Uh, so Deb, just talking about, of course, we get on like a half an hour before and
Deborah
we start
Epstein.
chit-chatting and all of those things to catch up, and got into a conversation. And so we're like, "Oh, are we going in a new direction, or is it just a different jump off point for the same direction of what we have planned?"
Yeah.
And
Yeah, and it is it's interesting, I think, is that we could start out through any doorway and still arrive in almost the same room because it just all kind of boils down to the same thing. So one of the things that we were talking about, because I pulled this card when we first started talking, and it's
Mhm,
the Yang card. So we know that's the more male
mhm,
energy of things. And I haven't read the card, what it's about, but it was everything that we were talking about. We were talking about structures and we were talking about feminine energy and how, feminine energy wants to flow. And it's creating from a space of love and creating from flow energy and rhythm energy
mhm,
and all of the when you call the seven hermetic principles, there's rhythm, polarity, correspondence. I don't want to name them all, but you guys can go look it up.
mhm.
Um, I don't want to do all the work for you. And I was talking about the structure of my mesa, and I was doing a lot of work with the structure this morning. So it's a lot of geometric patterning, and within the geometric patterning are a lot of medicine pieces. And when the medicine pieces are arranged in a certain way, the energy flows in a certain way. So it's like the structure helping the energy have
Mhm,
form and flow in certain directions for support, for healing, for to bring your intention into form, right? And it's this reciprocal sort of sacred play is how I think about it. So if I have an intention of, say, healing, and I look at my altar and I have certain pieces for certain things, I can arrange them according to my intuition and then receive the supportive energy of that. And then it shifts my mind, it shifts my awareness. It's like the
mhm,
magic. It doesn't make things appear out of nothing because we're also part of the play. We're also part of we're creators. And I think where this ties into what we were talking about before is we're living in this really sweet time of stepping into our power and empowering ourselves to become creators as we're watching everything crumble around us.
mhm, mhm.
And so that's the gist of where we are.
And that's exactly it, this we have to be responsible for ourselves. For so long, we've relied on the church, we've relied on the government, we've relied on, all of these different governing bodies, um, to tell us what to do and how to do it, and they're falling apart, and we can't trust them to tell us the correct information anymore.
Mhm,
So then we have to decide. I've always been a huge proponent of, personal responsibility, but not everybody has been.
mhm,
But we have to decide then what is best for us moving forward, right? And not in a, I'm more important than you, because we are a collective, but in as, how is this going to best serve me, and how do I move through the world,
mhm,
right? Knowing that there's other people. And so that's an really important part, because I think we've also become so polarized with me, right, versus the we. And so
mhm,
it's like, no, we have to take into consideration both, but we don't lose ourselves in that, which
mhm,
especially as women we have done for way too long.
mhm.
Well, always.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's the design of the system that's breaking down right now too, that patriarchal system.
Mhm.
Um, and how it's like even the view of how nature works had the patriarchal imprint imposed upon it. And that just speaks to illusion
Mhm.
in a sense, because when you really tap into the wisdom of nature, and then you hear, and then you think about like, survival of the fittest, for instance, it doesn't work that way. So like
Mhm.
if you had a bias, not Einstein, Darwin had a bias living in a world that he was living in, and then looked at nature, and it just he made nature fit into his bias.
Mhm.
And even he, like if you read about him, he really wasn't on board with his theory, but, like, we formed business under that theory. We formed so much of our world that we live in today under survival of the fittest that when we create things, we create from a survival mentality that if I don't do XYZ in the way of XYZ or ABC,
Mhm.
I'm not gonna make the money I need to support myself, and then, I'll die. And so what goes out the window? Creating from your heart,
Mhm.
what your heart's desire. And as artists like we are, it's a very interesting world that artists live in. And I was talking to my husband this morning about that very thing, how, you know, artists are, singers, songwriters, actors, and then there's visual arts, but there's only a limited supply of visual
Mhm.
art. And there's such an interesting set of um, beliefs that contradict one another. So it's really kind of hard to talk about in a linear fashion because it's not one thing that's at issue. Because it's like that thing that's unattainable that everybody wants, that has this, it's like almost on a pedestal, like the capital A artist.
Mhm.
And it's so funny because someone even asked me, "Well, did you go to art school?" And I'm like, "Well, yeah, I did." And it was like almost like it legitimized me. And I'm like, "Well, you do know we don't need to have a license to create art."
I didn't go to art school, but yes, I still consider myself an artist.
It's
Yeah.
But it's really interesting how like art as a profession, when you go to art school, that's like a school for art versus art in another college where they're also giving you other things to fall back on, so
Mhm.
to speak. It's such an interesting experience when you look at it like that. There's other people that are artists are legitimizing you, and then we as artists, like, kind of fall into that trap. And then, I mean, I know a lot of people that I've worked with, and I'm sure that you've worked with too, could say the same thing as, like, calling myself an artist. It was, like, the hardest thing, you know?
Mhm. Yeah. Even creative, like, just using the word creative, "Oh, I'm not creative." Well, you're a human, you are creative.
Right.
But we censor ourselves so much because of what we've been told in this world. I think one of the worst things that ever could happen, and has, of course, is marked art in school. So you go to school,
Mhm.
and you're in elementary or junior high probably is when they start marking it, and they give you a mark for your art.
Mhm.
And if you make a purple tree, trees aren't purple. Oh,
Mhm.
really? Because I had a purple tree in my yard,
Mhm.
So there's these rules around everything, and you have to be technical to be good, and it's like, okay, being technical, but then what? Where's the expression in that? Where is the emotion in that, right? And
Mhm.
I'm not saying that artists who are technical can't have emotion, but
Mhm.
just because you've learned a technique doesn't mean you're expressing yourself in your art.
Yeah, and that's where I would go, kind of equate that with body work because I do both. And the body work that I learned how to do, myofascial release, why I fell in love with it because it was an art. It's an art.
Mhm,
And there's techniques, but the art of it is listening to the body. It's the connection with the body and what does the body need. And sometimes it doesn't need a linear technique. Sometimes it just needs space held for it while it
mhm,
unravels. And just like art, when let's say you're going to, represent a landscape in an image that you're creating, that you can't take yourself out of the equation. You're processing through your work, how you feel about the landscape, what you see in it. Something may stick out for you, like the way the light hits a certain rock, that
Mhm.
whole image starts to become about that shape of that light more than it is about the landscape. And so those are the nuances for me. That's true artistry. That's like mastery when you get beyond the technique and you start to express through the work that you're doing. And so, does that just mean making a painting, or can you extrapolate that out into every aspect of work we do on the planet?
Yeah. Yeah. And that is creativity, right? It's not
Mhm,
just art. It's not just writing a book or playing an instrument. It is in everything we do. It's in the spreadsheet we create. It's in, the way we do our job.
mhm,
Creativity is in everything. And, there are times we get stuck in a rut of doing a repetitive task. Um, but anytime we change that, that's creativity.
mhm,
And we need to give more, um, what's the word I wanna use? We need to appreciate that more maybe, right?
mhm.
That
Yeah, well, that's our essence. When you think about it, it's our animating essence, right? Our soul is animating this body, which is a creation, right? And so in my teacher Don Oscar Miro Casada says we are creativity creating creation. When I first heard that, I was like, that's awesome.
Mhm,
We are the creativity creating all of creation. It's not someone, and this is where we have to kind of come off of the idea that it's been handed to us, it's been given to us by something outside of us. Carolyn Mace talks about that off-planet God, that lives up there somewhere. And I always marvel at that because I did not grow up in a religion, yet I still held that as a belief. I hated to use the word God because when I say the word God, the image of that would be, an old man with a white beard up in the clouds.
mhm,
Why? I don't know, because I think it's in our cultural consciousness. It's an
mhm,
archetype that we may have different variables about it, and I'm curious to see when people get to this part of us talking what they might share in the chat of
mhm,
what your image of God is. And I almost don't like to use the word because it's a word that has, been used to divide and to
mhm,
create war, and I like spirit, which is why, connection with spirit
mhm.
came up, right?
Yeah, yeah, and whatever word you use, I do have to say I have a little bit of a bias against the word God, but, you know, from so many things that we've been taught growing up and are part of our collective consciousness here in North America.
Mhm,
Um, but whatever you call spirit, universe, that energy,
mhm,
it is one and the same, right? And it is us. It is part of us
mhm.
as a collective and individually. But
Yes.
it's not a separate entity where it's like over here, which is what
Mhm,
we've been taught, right? That it's this separate entity that um, rules us and we must appease it
mhm,
or we are not good enough. We are not worthy. And
mhm.
we find that in so many different ways. We must meet these standards or we're not worthy,
Yeah.
right? And as someone who's been battling with a chronic illness for the last 6 months to 2 years, depending
Mhm,
on where you came into it, um, you know, I've really struggled with this value and worth as
mhm.
my ability to work has declined greatly.
Yeah.
And it's like, what is my value?
Mm,
And and that's been a big thing for me because I can recognize it. I can recognize where it comes from. I understand that it's not true, but we are so entrenched in it that I still feel it. I still
mhm.
feel it.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a real struggle.
Yeah. I feel like that's part of, where you can say what's in one is in the whole, right?
Mhm.
And so it's not that you're consciously, saying, "I'm going to live from this perceived sense of value," which really comes from money,
Mhm.
right? You know, how we're raised with money and your value, your worth is kinda tied to what you can bring in. I mean, just look, it's like you look at the warrior mentality around,
Mhm.
bringing home the bacon, so to
Yeah.
speak, right? As money just has kinda taken that, um, place in our psyche, it's kinda changed the story has changed over time, the archetype of, like, it's not the dead deer, the bear that we're bringing home for food for the family. Now it's the money, and
Mhm.
we're gonna do the battle to bring home the money. But it's part of that culture, so it's ingrained in us. And that's the work that we're doing is to, become aware of it, first of all, because you have to become aware of that you're acting in it unconsciously. And it's
Mhm.
not it you gotta get blame out of it, you gotta get the shame out of it, you gotta get the finger pointing out of it, which is kind of blame and shame and judgment, and you have to befriend it, because if you set
Mhm.
up a battle like that against it, you're just fighting in yourself.
Mhm.
And it's not as easy, I wish it were, but and maybe it can be, but not in my experience, that it's as easy as going, "Okay, well, I'm just gonna believe that anymore." And that's what I was talking about, like, with the altar. So I created an abundance altar, and when I set my intention for creating the abundance altar, I really just wanted to learn about it, and also we were going through some financial stuff that was really, as I look back on it now, it was tied to value and worth, things that me and my husband both had to go through to learn so that we could step out of a pattern.
Mhm.
And until we created what we created, we couldn't see how we were creating it because we
Mhm.
were doing it so unconsciously. And now as we're moving forward, having moved through that, it's almost like a financial reset now. I have such a greater appreciation for abundance, not just being things or
Mhm.
more than I need, and how when you're in, I'm gonna say "Aini" because that's the word, a Quechua word for, sacred reciprocity, that give and take. You're in creation with all creation.
Mhm.
And it's not about hoarding and bringing everything in here so I can feel good and safe and protected. That's still survival mentality, right?
Mhm.
It's knowing that I'm being guided by a higher force. We all are. It's connecting with that higher force and letting go of my ego
Mhm.
and feeling the fear because there is,
Mhm.
and stepping forward anyway, like just doing the best you can with it. It doesn't matter how sideways it goes or how much you get in the way. It's supposed to be play and to lighten up a little bit with it. But when you have those survival patterns that we're all working with right now, all of us,
Mhm.
if you're alive today,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's being able to walk through it and do it anyway. And boy, it can't get any bigger. Maybe it can, but I don't wanna
Don't
know
say
about it,
that.
right?
Don't say I
I
cannot.
I like to say to myself, and I said this morning, I went like, "Wow, I feel so good. How much more good can I feel today?" You know? And not and that's like, I'm like, I haven't felt like that in a long time, in a really
Mm.
long time, and not because I'm been in a depression, it's just we all go through shit. And
Mhm.
we were talking too about how for your illness, and when it came up, and I said, "Well, gee, as your friend, I might say it's been 2 years." And then when I look back at my path over the last 2 years and your path over the last 2 years, and then what we were talking about, I'm like, isn't this spectacularly interesting how we've each kind of traveled this, full on hero's journey, heroine's journey, in the last 2 years, but we're arriving with the same wisdoms, and
Yeah,
that's
doing a totally different journey, but arriving, in the same place
yeah,
to have this
that's what
understanding.
yeah, that's what's, lights
Yeah,
me up right there.
yeah. It's so true, it's so true. Oh, as we as we move through, and I think that that's a really important part is about what we take away from these things that happen to us, right? And that's what I've really been trying to focus on with all that's been going on, especially the last 6 months because it's been really difficult.
Mhm,
Um, is like, what is this bringing for me? What am I not not what do I have to learn, but what am I learning from this? What is the possibilities with this? You know?
mhm,
And what I've really been sitting with is how much I've still, even though I keep talking about it, been doing for others instead of myself, right?
mhm.
And it is important to think of others in all of this, but not at the expense of ourselves,
Exactly.
right?
It's so funny, I see the same thing in my husband, and we were having this exact conversation this morning about
Mhm,
it's okay to take care of yourself first and your customer, and
mhm,
that so some of it to me when I was his situation especially, and it may get to the why, so hopefully this may
yeah,
support you a little bit, but it's like he's dealing with customers that see companies as the enemy. So if something goes wrong, I'm gonna do battle with you because you're just like everybody else. And he's trying to build something different where,
mhm,
he wants he really he's the CEO of his company and he's talking to customers on the phone, wanting them to be happy with what people with their products.
mhm,
And, so when they realize like, "Oh, you're the guy," then
mhm,
they kinda soften a little bit, but it's more about learning how to create a win-win where it's like, "I'm not gushing and giving you everything because
mhm,
I'm trying to heal some wound of yours," you
mhm,
know? And you're not trying to take everything from me, trying to get satisfied, it's like, how can we both walk away from this experience where we both feel like we've won something? And so that looks like, when we're in a healing, situation with another, as the healer and the healee, we've been taught that as the healee, I have nothing. Healer, you have it all. And I need to suck you
take it
dry.
from you.
Yeah.
Mhm, mhm,
And, I've been through that too as a healer, and it's like, I felt like, "Oh, I especially if I start charging what I feel I'm worth, then what
mhm.
am I getting for that?" Because what I really know is that, your body has the capacity to heal. I just have to talk you into it.
And if you are not willing to listen to that and do that work, that's not on me, that is on you.
Yeah.
Which is a difficult place to be in the culture that we live in, right?
Yes. Yes.
Understanding the value of what you bring and them not accepting that.
Right. And then
And
there's also the attraction, right? So
mhm,
who are we attracting as healers, right?
mhm,
And so if I have really strong boundaries around something and, I attract someone that is really always trying to knock them down,
mhm,
I can just say, "Hey, listen, this is how I do my work, and this is the best for me. It's the best for me to be able to hold a safe container for you.
mhm,
And so if you can't follow that, then you need to find another person to work with." And it's
mhm,
being able to let that go, let them go, and let go of the financial piece of that.
mhm,
Trust, and that takes a lot of trust. That has always been a question of mine because, in my early days, I'll just take anyone that shows up because I
mhm,
need my business going, right? Because I know I'm a good healer, and I know I
mhm,
can do this work, and I know that da, 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 da. But that's not always a good way to do work.
mhm,
And especially when I'm working under a survival belief system that I gotta run fast, I gotta work hard so that I
Mhm.
can survive, not even thrive. Thrive's not even on the table. Even
Survive,
though there
yeah.
was a level of thriving, I'm just not seeing it because I'm in survival. I gotta keep getting clients. I gotta keep helping people. I gotta make sure I do that good, to the standard that I'm charging for.
Mhm.
And, so it's just all creating from fear, and that's a drain. It's not even that they're draining me. I'm doing it. I've opened the floodgates up.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. And it's interesting as just you were saying that, what made me think, it took me reaching sort of my lowest ability to
Mhm,
deliver,
mhm,
to recognize it, not my highest ability to deliver. I didn't recognize it then. It was at my lowest ability to deliver that I went, "That doesn't affect my value, so how can I do things differently?" Right?
mhm,
And if I'm expending all of this energy on, X, Y, and Z that is actually taking from me as opposed to filling me,
mhm.
then that's a problem. So it's been an interesting lesson to have this way, you know, because again, the knowledge we have is not always what we do. Wish it
Well, it's
was.
it's that level
Um,
of pain we each have to feel, and it's like when you go out into the world and what's happening, it's like, "Geesh, how much more pain do we have to move ourselves through?"
mhm,
And it's really interesting too being on the side of being awake, and I kinda look at our roles as healers now as almost like a welcoming committee. It's like, hey, a lot more people are going to be waking up in during this time and
mhm,
recognizing that they do have power and what do they want to do with that power, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
mhm,
And those of us that have been walking this path for a while, we hold a certain responsibility to help our fellow travelers on the path
mhm,
to find their way, not for us to do it for them, because we've learned as we've been walking the path,
mhm,
oh yeah, it's me, it's up to me. It's an inside job. It's not anything out there. It's up to me. It's like
mhm.
moving out of the victim, and stepping into the other, let's see, we have like what other 12 archetypes, getting them active in the light.
Which comes back to that whole lack mentality that
Mm,
we have built our culture on, right? Because if they have, I don't. If I have, they don't. So I must take from them to have. And
mhm,
and it's not a pie that, we get a smaller piece because there's more people. Everybody has the ability, and I don't mean everybody has the ability to be a billionaire, because there's a lot more involved than just, oh,
I don't think
making
you
money.
wanna be in that club,
But
honestly. That's what you
no,
see
I
going
don't.
down in in that group.
That that's an interesting that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, put a pin in that one and we'll come back to it another day.
but this idea of, whether it's our physical health, our emotional health, our, basic needs that we have, whether it's more than that, what we want out of the world, and I don't have to take away from somebody else for me to have, and then, "Oh, I'm a horrible person if I have something because they don't, and I've taken it from them," which I think a lot of healers, artists, other heart-centered, um, people and businesses have that issue with, "Well, I can't charge because then I'm not helping. If I charge too much or if I don't give more, I'm not doing my part."
Mhm,
And it's not a that's still that, like we were speaking about, that lack mentality of, right?
mhm,
And so the more I'm in abundance and able to share how that came about and how you can be in abundance. I'm not saying I have to give my abundance to you, but
mhm,
share how you can do it and give you tools to use. Again,
mhm,
not doing the work for you, but give you tools to use that I've used. And maybe they'll work and maybe they won't. You know, that's how we build each other up. That's how we build that abundance for everybody. It's
mhm.
not about, taking away from other people. I must be the most powerful player.
Mhm.
I'll go and start a war because, I need people to think I'm all powerful.
Yeah.
Um, that's
Well, and that may speak to the lack that he's
mhm,
he's playing through his psyche, right? Because his actions are doing the opposite, right? And it is a mindset. Abundance is a mindset, it's not stuff, right?
mhm,
It's we live in an abundant universe. My example of that is like any artist that says I have too many ideas and I don't know which one to bring into form. That like I don't know if it's just some people that I attract that
every
I
creative
but I
I
can
know
say I
actually, but
hear
yeah.
that from everybody. And it's the overwhelm, and that's just the creative mind. And I get them too, and I remember grappling with that early on. And sometimes I think, like, when you're plugged into infinite source intelligence, that's true abundance, right? There is no lack in infinite source intelligence.
Mhm,
It's all available to you.
mhm,
So, maybe that's where having an intention comes in, like, knowing what do you wanna create? How do you wanna feel when you're creating it? I'm kinda sitting in that right now as I'm reawakening my, um, I don't know, my business, I guess? What do I wanna create that feels sustainable for me
mhm,
and that helps others? What is needed out there? What does the community need? What does the community need that I want to be doing? And as I said to you earlier, it's like I wanna wake up in the morning, be truly excited to
mhm,
do whatever work I am doing, but I don't wanna work 16-hour days,
mhm,
because
yeah,
for me, it's not about getting people's attentions and, getting likes and getting all that kind of stuff. It's like, when we do this podcast, for instance, we truly love having these conversations, and it's like, whoever shows up, shows up. Awesome.
mhm,
Only one of you is here now. Great.
yeah,
It doesn't matter. It's like if you
mhm,
get if 35 people watch or 135 people watch and they get something from it, I'm like, I'm jacked about that. But
mhm,
when we originated this, it's about connection, and the connection that we have and that we just wanted to share it. That's all. And so
mhm,
I think it's more coming from that mentality versus like, I gotta get this podcast out there. I need to have everyone's eyes on it and I need to monetize and I mean, yeah, we do, but that can't be the driver because then you're the one
mhm,
that we are the ones that become driven, you know?
mhm, yeah. And I think often we don't understand, the steps, right? So we
Mm,
get so fixated on the monetization of something or that it has to be the best or it has to be the most popular, and we don't understand the steps of that. So I think back to a summit I was on when I first started online, so 2018. I think I
mhm,
started online 2018. I had been in person for like 30 years before that, and I was on a summit and I met a friend, and then uh, we weren't a friend at the time, we were quite good friends now. And we ended up doing, co-writing a book together that, a few other people were involved in. And then we've had numerous other projects we've done together. And now she's one of my best friends. You and I met on a summit,
mhm,
and we have done so many things together. We have done this, but that has led to learning about ourselves. It has led to other experiences and knowing other people.
mhm,
So, yes, we've talked, many times about how we could maybe build this up and do things with it, but also it's feeding other things. And if
mm,
it wasn't, we wouldn't be doing it, right?
mhm, mhm,
The sharing alone, we love that part, right? Often when we meet weekly, because we come here monthly, we'll say, "Oh, what too bad you don't have the audience today. We could have shared. We have to remember to share this." We say things like that, um, which of course we don't remember to share, but it's things that we talk about. And it's because we want to share information with people. We want to be a part of the shift that is happening.
mhm,
And And yes, we do need to support ourselves, but also there's more to it than that
Mhm.
as we're moving through what's happening. And so not everything we do is going to be the thing,
Mhm.
right? There's other purposes for some things.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think that's an important part to remember because many people stop doing things because, oh, it's not the number one or it's not, it's not bringing in enough money. Now, if everything you're doing is, you know, putting you there, okay, maybe that's not working. But there are some things you do for other reasons.
Yeah.
And I think that that's an important part.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's learning too how to work, in the nonlinear and also the linear, you know?
Mhm,
Because it is a both and situation. It can't all be linear and it can't all be nonlinear. Because a lot of times the nonlinear, like etheric, kind of abstracty kind of stuff doesn't if it doesn't ever find a form, it can be really frustrating, right? And it
mhm,
feels like it almost feels like you're backed up or clogged up, right? And there's a step between those 2 places, and I think a lot of creatives, especially healer creatives, because they have an understanding of how energy flows, they have a good grasp on it through maybe not a, linear sort of way, but
mhm,
more of a hands-on, expressive sort of way where they're in the flow of it, and then if you asked them, "Well, how did you do that?" "Well, I don't know, it's just in the moment," right?
mhm.
That's that sweet spot we all wanna get to when we're creating. When we're in a painting, right? If someone says, "Well, how did you do that?" "Well, I just let go, honestly, that's what it and this is what came out." But there has to be this we have to be able to learn how to create the forms and structures, that's the yang energy, to bring these big ideas into life. And so I think that is probably more where the issues fall for us as creatives and healers is where we're seeing what's out there and the way it's been being done and the way it's trying to me, this is funny. It's people are talking about wanting to do it differently while they're doing it in the same way. So
Mhm.
they haven't, they have the awareness of it, but they still don't get that they're doing it in the same in the same
Yes,
energy that they've
yes.
created in. So, but I think this is the gift in taking the break, however we took the break, is to be able to sit, like, with truly, like, what do I want to live in as a
Mhm,
creator, as a healer? And then finding the way to maybe help others structure something for themselves, and it doesn't have to look like everybody else's. This is the idea of, like, the uniqueness of what we create instead of, and this is how it's been happening, right? Somebody creates something that's kinda unique and they see, "Oh, look at all the likes they got. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna do the same thing," right?
mhm,
And it falls flat on its face and it's going to, because that is creating under the old energy pattern. We're
mhm,
in a new time right now. We were talking about the, astrology that's happening right now and where the planets are and how long they're gonna be in this cycle. So that's, like, really us moving into a new way of thinking, the new earth thinking, right?
mhm.
Where, as you said before, it's like I can't just think about me, it's me in accordance with the all, I'm not alone in it. So
Mhm,
that's a
mhm,
wake up, right? I'm not alone in it anymore. So how does it serve me and how does it serve others? And, if we're gonna be creating these new structures, in how we maybe wanna get our art out into the world, how we wanna write that book or maybe start a healing practice that is, kind of a unique way. If we're going to market, because we do have to bring it to market at some point, it has to leave the confines of your mind and and come out into some sort of form. How do we wanna structure that,
mhm,
that is workable, that is doable? And I think for me, and I'd love to hear what you think about this from your experience, the most draining thing of having an online business in the way that I was taught to do it was the constant marketing, the constant staying on top of all of that crap, and I
mhm,
was never getting to do, or not as much as the to do as the work I love to do.
mhm.
that was one of the big reasons I needed to step away because I was hating it.
Mhm. Yeah. It and most creatives, healers, those heart-centered business owners really do struggle with the marketing part of it
Yeah.
because of it's a totally different energy, and we're taught this very masculine energy way of
Mm,
doing that, and shifting our thinking in that. Now, I haven't sent an email to my list in months, and I it does niggle at me, and I should, other than about this, right? We're going live today. Um, and but I still have had new clients. I've still had people come in,
Mhm.
maybe not the same rate that they were before, but they're also very committed to the work that they're doing. So I find
Yeah,
it really interesting that I'm not on social media, I'm not sending emails to my list, and yet I'm still getting clients, I'm still doing things that, um, keep my business going.
yeah,
And I just was physically incapable of,
yeah,
which is what I needed to step away from that. I do believe, I think that's a part of this whole illness for me, has
yeah,
been shifting, not my thinking, because my thinking was already there, but actually shifting my ability to move into what I think
yeah,
versus, what I've been very much indoctrinated into.
yeah, and you had mentioned before, I'd love if you felt called to touch on the emotional aspect of the shift that you're going through, because you had said a few things, and I was like, "Oh, man, do I know that?" But I'd love to hear
I
that
mean,
again.
it's been a difficult journey, I have to say, because I have beat myself up about not doing the things. I have, gone through this whole process of, "I'm not good enough. I'm not, worthy. Like, I'm not delivering enough.
Mhm,
Why am I bothering with it?" Like, I've gone through all of those, and I'm not saying I'm completely cured of them, because there are
mhm,
moments that it still pops back in. But as I'm shifting through all of this, I'm starting to recognize I don't want to be that, right? I knew
mhm,
I didn't want to be that, but I'm really recognizing it in myself now.
mhm,
And so I am, I think, I hope, incapable of going back to that.
yeah.
You know, time
I
will tell, because, like, COVID, everybody's like, "Oh no, we'll never go back to that life." And many people did go back to that life.
Yeah, but did you?
Um, yeah.
That's the main part, did you?
So so, my as I'm sitting here with it, I'd like to think I'm not gonna go back to that.
Yeah,
I do believe that my health will dictate, and maybe I'm bringing this to fruition, but if I was to go back to it, I do believe my health would decline further.
you
And
won't let
so,
yourself, so see that how you keep how you're keeping yourself
yes,
honest.
this is how I'm keeping myself in check.
But I think that's where you can be like, you can have grow that gratitude for that aspect of you that's creating it that way so that you stay honest with yourself.
Mhm,
I go through my version of that, and I love that you're speaking into this because I'm like, yeah, because and what it's that question, will I go back to it? And it's not a matter of like, "Oh my gosh, I've come so far, there's no way I can go back." I think you get to a point where you have learned it and you see it. So it's
mhm,
the awareness of it. So you have now a choice where you go, "Oh, that has a feel to it. If I go and try to do it this way again, I'm not gonna like how this feels in my body."
mhm,
And so maybe you don't know the new way yet. And that's kinda where I'm at. I don't know quite yet, but I know what I feel.
mhm,
And I know, like, so when I'm trying to not, get too far ahead of myself and make promises that I know I can't keep, so I'm going to do this on every single new moon. To me, that's
mhm,
like for me, that's dangerous to do because then I will start driving towards that. I have integrity. I have to do
mhm,
what I say. And then conversely, it's not like, well, if I don't say it, I don't have to do it. It's no, I have to find my rhythm of it. And so
Mhm.
there's no formula for that because it's you feeling your rhythm.
Mhm.
And and then what I've noticed about working when I feel my rhythm, it's freaking always on, and it makes me laugh because I'm like, "Oh, that was easy."
Mhm. Yes.
When I force and I start feeling that I'm forcing, that I'm starting to tune in more to my core and feeling like, so here's an example. So I became a sanctioned teacher. One of our commitments is to do a Wednesday night link up for the community. We are
Mhm.
needing to sign up for 2. I haven't signed up yet. Well, I did. I did yesterday. I signed up for my 2. But whenever a need arises around that, I start to go into like, I gotta do it. I gotta do it. And because I need to like, that's part of me. It's like I gotta rush in and help.
Mhm.
And I call it the taking one for the team sort of mentality, right?
Mhm.
But then I started catching that I was doing that because I was feeling in here like, why don't I feel good about doing that? And then I really sat with it. And it's because no, I haven't even looked at the dates that I want to do.
Mhm.
So I've set myself up to play this stupid game with myself so that I can rush in and,
And
feel
save the
good about
day.
myself by saving the day,
Yeah.
and but which I don't feel good about myself at all. So
Yeah.
once I set those dates, I'm like, "Whew," my whole body relaxed, and then I had the awareness, like, I'm not the only teacher. There's a lot of other teachers that can step up and fill those spaces, so it's not all on me. So
Mhm.
it's really like, now that's kind of an insight into how my programming works, because I allowed myself to shift how I did it, even though it may have been uncomfortable in the moment.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a really important part is as we are shifting, it is very uncomfortable, right? It's really uncomfortable. And we think often, well, if we're shifting for the better, it's just gonna be better.
Yeah,
Yeah, it will be, but in the middle, when we're shifting, it is not. It
right.
is messy. It is uncomfortable. It
Yeah,
is all the things that make you question, should I be doing this? Should I not be doing this? Is this right? Is this not? And so recognizing that I think is such an important part is that it is very uncomfortable
yeah.
to make those changes.
And I think too, also remembering you're not alone in it, because you and I both, I know, have a lot of friends that are spiritually minded, and people who are watching this, I think, are of that ilk as well. It's the recognition that, like, oh my gosh, there's a whole group of us learning how to shift. I don't have
Mm,
all the answers, but I'm willing to talk about my process. And hopefully, by me talking about my process, it gives you some insights into your process. And I feel like that's how we help each other. It's like
mhm,
not me fixing it for you, because you know what? There really is no problem, because we're shifting the problems.
mhm. Yeah, yeah,
We may not like the results of how it feels, but we have to remember too how we grew up, the things we learned to shut down. And now the things that we are learning to wake up, we have to learn how to be with them. And our body also comes along for the ride. And
yeah.
not just comes along for the ride, has a lot to say. And so we get to listen to that, and we get to honor that, and not just shush it like we were shushed. So it's like,
Mhm,
it's like noticing, like, oh my gosh, I do that to my body, because I felt like it didn't have any value, because I never felt like I had value because I was shushed. And it's like, oh, look at how I'm doing that. And, oh, I never thought of it like that before. And then it's like, oh, thank you for that insight, and it's like we said before, if you woke up healed one day, it'd be too freaking scary, you
mhm.
know, as much as we say we want that, and it would probably be nice. There is something that we're getting out of the process, and that is the juice, you know?
And I think honestly, if I was to wake up completely healed, I would probably just go right back into my old patterns,
Mm,
right? Because it's like I have no control. It's just I'm sick or I'm not, right?
mhm.
And the path that I've been taking through this and seeing some of the connections has to be done slowly. Otherwise, it's not going to stay.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's lasting results. It's like when you think about, weight loss. I like going to this one too because it's something that you see everywhere, especially in like now we're women of a certain age that we've gone through menopause or we're going through menopause and it's like meno belly. It's like all of these names for stuff and the
Mhm.
marketing around it is ridiculous. And really everything comes down to a lifestyle change. There's nothing wrong with your body when you're going through menopause. What's wrong with the whole situation is how we relate to it and how we relate to it may be some of what's causing the problems because we're in resistance to the aging because of
Mhm.
what does it mean for a woman when she goes into her cronehood, right? When she becomes an elder. We dismiss our elders, right? And
Mhm.
I remember being little. I was really young, and I thought I had this vision, and I'm like, "I wanna be that wise woman. I wanna be the wise woman." I used to love the story of Solomon in the Old Testament of the Bible
Mhm.
because it was all about wisdom. So I was always attracted to wisdom, not knowing stuff, but just the wisdom that comes from being in the silence, allowing for that connection with yourself, with earth, with universe. And there's wisdom that comes through. It's not something that you hold on to. I feel like knowledge is something we're grasping at. And I feel like wisdom is just something that flows.
Mhm.
And I thought, like, wow, if I could be an old woman, be wise, like, that's a good goal.
But it's true, we don't honor aging, our elders, the wisdom that comes with that. Um, None of that, right? We dismiss the aging population, and as more and more of us are aging, and especially women who have been devalued for so long, it
Mm,
you know, that just compounds that. I listened to my mother-in-law who is, quite ill
mm,
and, terminal. She's still worrying about her weight and, "I can't get rid of this last 10 pound," and it's like, you are rail thin, first of all, because you barely eat, and you're worried about your last 10 pounds when you might not be here next year?
yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
there's something seriously wrong with our culture that this is the way we think.
Yeah.
And, I mean, she's not the only one. This is a very common thinking, right? That we have to look a certain way. We have to and she recognizes that she calls herself vain, and she doesn't leave the
Mhm.
house unless and so, she looks a certain way and, she's quite not well right now. And
Yeah.
so she's been staying home more and more because she's worried about what she looks like. Who cares
Yeah.
what you look like? Go
Yeah.
live
And
your life.
yeah, and is that, like, more worry towards what other people are gonna say or think about it, And you can't control that.
Yeah.
And
And
it comes
most people
down
probably
to
don't think anything of it.
yeah, it comes down to, like, lifestyle and happiness and how do you wanna live,
Mhm.
Not, like, everything that every morsel I put into my body, I'm gonna have to worry about because what do you that's energy. You're
Mhm.
taking this thing that could be, like, really healthy and really good for you, but you're gonna put it in your mouth, and then you're gonna feel guilty about it because it's gonna make you gain weight or whatever.
Mhm.
But your body does need fuel,
Yeah.
and you get to enjoy what you eat, but it's also like, there's the moderation, what feels good in your body versus what doesn't feel good in your body, and when we're always listening to what the so-called experts say about how to do this, they're coming from a very linear standpoint, not a very unique, like, multidimensional kind of like what works good for me. It's like, well, I have all these belief systems in my way, so every time I eat something, I'm gonna make it stay in my body longer than it
Mhm.
needs to. It's gonna be fuel, and it's gonna be, resource for other times, I'm gonna hoard it in my body. My cells are gonna hoard it, you know, and
Which
it
is a
doesn't
very common thing when we are limiting ourselves, then our
yeah,
body hoards and you don't lose weight, even though you keep cutting calories, cutting calories, cutting calorie and it's like, or
or yeah.
you could do what your body needs.
Yeah, and think of yourself like I love the word nourish, you know? It just has like just the word itself has this feel to it, nourishing. It's
Mhm,
like plenty of water and sustenance and fuel and like life force energy. Like so it's more than just food that nourishes you, right? What
mhm,
sleep nourishes us, right? Water nourishes us, time alone, time out in nature. Like, think about all of the ways that you are nourished in your body other than just food.
Mhm.
And, how does that feel in your body? Because when I think we can shift that, then that feeling of deprivation, you don't want to deprive yourself when your body truly feels hungry. you
Mhm.
know it's such a sad thing that I see us do as women, the self-judgment, the pain we put ourselves through, the
It's not just food.
comparison.
It's
Yeah,
right.
it's not, it's whole body, it's whole stuff, all stuff,
Mhm.
right? And it's like how I look at you and I go, "Oh, I wish I could look like that person." And it's
Mhm.
like what are you saying? What is, what else, what other parts of you are hearing that, dismissing your own self because you'd rather be someone else or look like something else.
Mhm.
And, it's we gotta start learning self-love and self-appreciation, and it's that's the unconditional part. We haven't been taught that,
Mhm.
how to be unconditional, and I think that's what we're really craving, That's what we're really
Mhm.
craving, is that I just wanna be accepted, but we have to start that here,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah. Each of us individually. It's so true. It's so true. I'm just looking at the time,
I know, wow, we went
and
almost
I've
an
done
hour.
incredibly well, I have to say. I'm still feeling okay today.
Yeah,
Um, so that's good, but I think, we might wanna, just wrap things up. Any
yeah.
final thoughts for today?
I
Um
just Yeah, I think wrapping up, and just saying to everyone, I'd love to hear. I'm gonna send an email maybe tomorrow or the next day,
Mhm.
kinda saying what we talked about, and, really kind of opening the question. I'd love to hear what people introspect around these
Mhm.
topics, because I feel like, you know, we're talking a lot, but and a lot of wisdom's flowing here, like,
Mhm.
from what we're talking about. And I love the conversation, but I don't think there's any absolutes here. And, I guess I just would love to close by saying I just wish you all well, wish
Mhm.
you all wellness and nourishment and love, and, finding your way to what really sustains you in your happiness and in your joy.
Yeah, such an important part. Not what you think is gonna make you happy, but what truly makes you happy, or what you think somebody else thinks you need to be happy. These are
Mhm.
all the things we do. But, what is really going to bring you joy in your life? And as someone who has been struggling, I have to say not giving up, right? When you are struggling, our culture is very much because we put value on ourselves based on how we show up in the world. And things are constantly shifting, especially if you allow them to. So just sit with whatever's happening, whatever's going on with you, and good, bad, or otherwise, and allow it. And then look at, what did you need to know, or what do you need to know now? And not that, oh, what's this lesson I must learn from this? Because I think we there's a lot of blame in that. But
Yeah.
truly, like, what am I learning from this? Right?
Mm,
And what do I truly want? And maybe this is trying to shift me into moving in that direction. So I would just invite everyone to look at that for themselves. Yeah.
beautiful. Yeah. I love
Alright.
that for sure.
We're gonna try and close the live streaming now. We'll see what happens. We may still be here an hour from now, but thank you everyone who joined us, and if you're on the replay, please leave a comment, and, yeah, because we love you being a part of the conversation.